Hello PMC fans, welcome. I am Noah JTRA or the Rockin Aerodactyl here with another interview. I am here joined by Kingdra, coach of the Kansas City Kingdras. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Kingdra.
Alrighty. So first off, welcome to Season 2 of the PMC. Happy to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
Alrighty.
hoping to do at least a little bit better this season.
Alrighty, well let's begin with how did you find the PMC?
Well, basically, I was in a league prior to the PMC called the PDO, and JSpecs was also in there, so when the PMC was about to kick off the first season, he invited me to do the PMC, and I said sure. So that's how I got into it.
Alrighty, yeah, it seems a common trend. It was JSpecs was in the league with somebody and then invited them. Well, happy to have you. So, what are your thoughts on the PMC?
I think that it's actually a pretty, good league. It's got really high level play. Most leagues I'm in, I can win pretty easily without too much thought, but I gotta try harder in the PMC because the competition level is much higher and much more professional, and I actually like that about the league. So it's not just I can't just run Smogon common movesets and win easily. I've got to actually try.
Yeah, definitely a lot of competition here. So you mentioned you were in a league prior to this, or a few. Do you want to elaborate a little more on that?
Well, basically, I'm no newcomer to leagues. I've been in a couple different ones. The OBA is a league I personally run, and it's currently going. So I've been in that for 3 seasons, so I'm pretty knowledgeable with the game. And I mentioned the PDL. I was in there for season 1, which unfortunately ended because a lot of coaches weren't committing, and the same thing happened in season 2, unfortunately. So I'm just here, and then obviously the PMC. Well, now season 1 and season 2, which is just starting up. So basically, the other leagues I mentioned, they're more like with friends that I know, not necessarily high-level competitors. So that's what's nice about this league is that, a lot of people in here are actually good. So that's what I specifically like about the PMC in general.
Alrighty, yeah, the PMC, there's, again, a lot of competition. And also, like I mentioned, like you talked about how there are often leagues. I've even was in a league for 1 week, and then it got disbanded because of commitment issues. So I do like that. I do like being a part of the PMC because, almost everyone is committed. I think there was one team last season that had to drop, but overall it's really good. So you obviously have a lot of battles under your belt being a part of all these leagues you mentioned and being a PMC Season 1 veteran. What would you say is your greatest strength when it comes to battling?
I personally think I can nail predictions. Like, it's not something that is too terrible. I can usually know the right plays to make, and, act accordingly. Obviously you can catch me off guard if you run some completely wacky move I didn't even know the Pokemon could learn, but generally I can make some pretty good predictions, and I think I even did that pretty well last season.
Alrighty, yes, predictions, definitely a big part of Pokemon. And, being a part of all of these leagues you've been a part of and have all this experience, it doesn't surprise me that, predictions. So, really looking forward to seeing the predictions you'll be making this season. So, what do you think is your biggest weakness then when it comes to battling?
That would probably be my team preparation. Sometimes I just, not really into it, so I'll just throw a team together quickly, and that's definitely one of my biggest weaknesses because that can get me in trouble during the actual battle because predictions help me a lot, but if I don't have the correct team, there's nothing I can do if I'm just going to keep getting walled by something over and over, and they can keep making switch outs. So I'm just going to end up getting destroyed that way, so that's something I definitely need to work on improving.
Alrighty, so you mentioned that you want to improve on team building, and the draft is coming up. Do you have any plans for the draft? Any Pokemon you want to utilize or strategies?
Well, I'm basically like last season, I grabbed too many things that stood alone. Basically, like, they all did their own thing and by themselves. Like, basically my only rapid spinner in Stealth Rocker was Donphan, which it is a good Pokemon to do those things, but it was my only Pokemon that could do that, basically. So people could generally predict that I was going to be bringing that for that. So that could get me easily red, and then someone could bring something like Taunt. You could bring a Ghost type to block the Rapid Spin. Basically do whatever you want. Also, I had a little bit more bulk than I would have liked last season, so I think I want to, expand and get some more Pokemon capable of sweeping and picking up games. I'm pretty sure last season my only really offensive mons were like my Hitmonlee and my Tornadus, and maybe even my Zygarde, but that in itself has, a little bit of bulk too, so that's something I definitely want to improve on in this draft, is grab some more offensive mons instead of just heading for bulk.
Alrighty, you mentioned a lot of mons in that talking about Pokemon you had. I believe you mentioned Hitmonlee and Thundurus. What do you think is the most... I'm sorry?
Oh, it's Tornadus.
Oh, Tornadus, I'm sorry. Yeah, Tornadus, though, definitely a lot of fun mon to use. But what do you think... Let's talk about another mon. What mon, in your opinion, is the most overrated mon?
Just in general?
In general, or actually in this format.
That's a kind of a tough one, because there's a lot of mons that are generally, used a lot. I'd probably say Pokemon like Darmanitan, because like everyone looks at it and says it's a huge wall breaker, so people generally like that. Or Pokemon like trying to think here specifically, like I said, Darmanitan comes to mind. Also some of the megas, like Megalopony, that's always one of many people's highest pick. Some leagues allow Mega Metagross. I know that this one doesn't, but if it was in a league, most people go towards that thing because that thing's an absolute monster because of all the stats it has and stuff it can do. But yeah, probably definitely Megalopony is one of them, and Darmanitan. I don't know. There's also a couple other things like Milotic, I guess. A lot of the UU mons are actually well sought after, or like Jolteon or Tangrowth, or those kinds of mons.
Alrighty, so you talked about some overrated mons. What about underrated mons?
There could be a lot of underrated mons if you think about it. Like the whole PU tier is heavily underrated. There's so many gems in there that most people completely overlook because, it gets lumped in with NU, and then NU mons are considered better, so people generally go for them. But there's a lot of versatility down in PU. Like a regular Audino can be used pretty well for wish passing and like toxic, or just being bulky, and it gets regenerator too, but it gets overshadowed by other things, especially other regenerators in like RU, like Tangrowth or Soul King. There's a lot of mons basically that get overlooked. I don't know, it's kind of tough. Like there's some UU mons even, I believe, that get overlooked, like some of the megas especially, like Mega Swampert. Most people don't generally draft Mega Swampert. I mean, sometimes they do because it's, just there, but I don't know about people that draft Mega Swampert because it's good. They might just draft it because they want extra points for picking stuff up, but I don't think they, actually know how to use it properly some of the times.
Yeah, Mega Swampert's definitely a very interesting mon. Decent bulk, but I believe 150 attack, so he definitely can hit really hard. So you've been in quite a few leagues, like you mentioned earlier, and this is your second season of the PMC. So do you have any expectations for yourself coming into this season?
Well, that's kind of a tough thing, because if I look at the way I perform in other leagues, I could say I'm going to do, really good, but if I look at the way I did last season, I could say, oh, I'm going to do pretty bad. So I think I'm going to definitely be bringing more competition this season. I'm just going to be trying to look to keep myself about mid, like a sort of balance with the wins and losses. I'm not going to expect myself to just 6-0 everyone or anything, but I'm also not going to just expect myself to get destroyed either. I'm just going to try to, expect myself to do what I can, try to get some wins, but, not be too upset if I do lose.
Alrighty. So, what do you have any inspiration when it comes to your team building or your battle style? Anybody you look up to, or?
Lately, I've been trying to learn from how A-Drive team preps because he's a really good team prepper and really good at battles. I mean, he's not doing too well in the GBA so far, but that's okay. But anyways, like, he can come up with sets I would have never thought of sometimes, and it just inspires me to try to create my own unique sets and not just try to go after what I usually do, but, you know, to look at what my team has and see what really is more important against their team and what can actually stop it rather than just what I would rather bring.
Alrighty. Yeah, A-Drive has been mentioned a lot, so definitely a player that people have been looking up to for team building so far in this season. So I want to thank you for your time, for coming on board. I just have one question before, just one more. Who will be our PMC Season 2 champion? Who will it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a really tough question. There are so many people that are viable for champion. Like, it all depends on what team people get, honestly. I can't predict from, knowing nothing except who they are. Like, Cloud Envy could do pretty well, J-Specs, so many different people have, the potential. It's just hard to predict at this point because, there's not really much I can say if I don't know much about them right now. Lucky Lad, there's just so many people that could pull it off, I'm not sure.
Alrighty, yeah. I don't blame you, honestly. I was wondering, yeah, it's definitely a hard choice to, like, right now to predict who will win, but I do wish you the best of luck. Looking forward to seeing your predictions. And, guys, for you viewers at home, thank you for watching, and I am Noah JTRA, or the Rockin Aerodactyl, joined by Kingdra, coach of the Kansas City Kingdras. Was that right?
Yes.
Alright, good. Whew. Was worried I forgot the name, but I remembered it. Awesome. Guys, thank you for watching. Please show your support for Kingdra by watching the PMC, liking, the videos, and just overall, I hope you guys are enjoying Season 2 as much as I am. So hyped for this. Again, huge thank you to Kingdra for joining us. Happy to have you. And that is it, guys. Thank you for watching, and hope to see y'all in the next video. Bye, guys.